Hello guys, Chinson here. Today I'll be reading some r/entitled parents. You know how common package thieves are, always stealing our mail. But what happens when an entitled mother got involved? Let's find out. Entitled mother steals gift package from a poor, hardworking single mom and her 6-year-old daughter because it was on my doorstep. Don't worry folks, there will be a TLDR because I'm well aware of how long-winded I am. This isn't as totally insane as some of the stories on here, but it is a situation that makes my blood boil just remembering it, so I feel like I need to post it here and just sorta see what you think. Because it's possible that I'm just overreacting, but I really don't think that's the case. This was a couple of years ago, and I wasn't exactly involved firsthand, so apologies if some details are vague or inconsistent. So I have this aunt, who I'll call Ella for privacy's sake, because God knows this woman doesn't need any more shit. And she isn't technically my real aunt. What she is my uncle's ex-girlfriend, as they only lasted a few months before they broke it off. He doesn't exactly have his life together, to put it mildly. But she was such a nice and cool person that we consider her part of the family anyway. Ella has a daughter named Maggie, again, changed for privacy, who, at the time this took place, was about 6 years old. Ella was and still is a single mother, as, not to get too personal, but Maggie was the result of a rape that occurred while Ella was training to join the military. Upon discovering that she was pregnant, she was essentially kicked out because A, pregnant people can't really do that sort of rigorous training boot camp type of shit this program required, and less officially, B, it was almost certainly her higher up at the time who raped her, and they didn't want to deal with the consequences. That second bit is just speculation, as the fucking coward drugged her, so Ella has no idea who it was. All she knew was that suddenly she was pregnant, unemployed, and had nowhere to go. But Ella is one of the most badass people I've ever met. She took that shitty situation and ran with it, working her ass off at whatever job she could get to get herself an apartment, and prepare herself for being a mother. She had no college education as she couldn't afford it, and had actually joined the military with the hope that it'll help her get through college, but obviously that didn't turn out well. Nevertheless, she gave birth to Maggie a few months later, and has been fighting tooth and nail ever since to give that girl as stable and happy upbringing as she possibly can. Ella won't say anything about it, but we all know she's had to sacrifice a lot in order to do that. She's gone hungry countless nights so her daughter wouldn't have to. She worked horrible, demanding jobs on little to no sleep just to earn what little money they'll give her, so she could keep the two of them afloat. And she still does everything in her power to make sure she's there for Maggie whenever she needs her. The woman's a goddamn saint is what I'm saying. Naturally, my family got to know her. We were determined to help out however we could. We're not exactly rich per se, but we were pretty well off. Enough so that we could absolutely spare enough to pay for a couple bills here and there, and make sure neither of them starve. Additionally, my parents helped Ella find a better paying and more stable job, which has made a pretty big improvement on their lifestyle, so I've been told at least. But they still struggle. And Ella has said more than once that her biggest source of distress is the fact that she feels Maggie hasn't been able to be a real kid, able to play without worrying or hunger plaguing her. So we thought we'll try to help that. My mom put together a sort of care package for Maggie's birthday, filled not only with enough food to feed the two of them for several weeks, but also some sweet that Maggie normally never got, and the crown jewel of it all, brand new toys and clothes for Maggie to enjoy. The last time they'd been over, Maggie had been upset because the stuffed unicorn she had for a while was falling apart, so my mom bought this very pretty, very cute looking unicorn plushie to replace that was just like her last one, as well as sets of those little plastic butterfly clips we caught her eyeballing in my sister's room. All in all, the package cost a couple $100s, but we all agreed that that was nothing if it meant making that little girl happy. Well, Maggie's birthday comes and goes, and we don't hear anything, which was a bit odd, as even though we told her it wasn't necessary. Aunt Ella tends to be the type of person who makes some pretty big displays of gratitude. She had a staunch belief in sending handwritten thank you notes after every gift we gave her. So it was kind of weird that we hadn't heard anything from her. Weird enough that my mom decides to call and ask about it. They never received the package. My mom is besides herself. She contacts the post office, frantically asking if it has gotten lost or delayed or anything like that. As not only was it a pretty dang important package, but some of the food in there were fresh, and would definitely have gone bad by now. The post office tells her that no, they delivered it, which caused even more confusion. How is that possible? It turns out what had happened was that somehow it had gotten delivered to a wrong address. Instead of going to my aunt and cousin, the package got delivered to a family several streets over. in which I feel I must mention was a fairly affluent area. My mom got in contact with the family. To be honest, I'm not sure how she even managed that. But then again, if my mom's determined to do anything, she's gonna do it, no matter what. The family consists of mother, a father, and their 2 younger daughters, both of whom were roughly around Maggie's age. My mom tried to explain the mix-up to them, and here's where the entitlement came in. I wasn't actually present for this phone conversation, but my mom sure ran about it later. So obviously this isn't going to be the exact dialogue, but it went something like this. Karen? Oh yeah, that package. Well, we already ate all the food out of it. My mom? You didn't think it was a little odd that you got a package you didn't order? Karen? Well, you thought it was a little weird, but it was just snacks and kid stuff in there, so... My mom, very annoyed. And did you happen to see the giant happy birthday card addressed to my niece on top of all of those snacks and kid stuff? Karen, sounding pissy. There was a card, yeah, but I just threw it out. Didn't think it was important. My mom, eager to resolve the situation before she loses her shit. Look, ma'am, I'm not going to argue with you about the card, or the frankly insane fact that you decided to take it, open, and consume the food from her package that clearly didn't belong to you. But I am going to ask you to please send all the clothes, toys, and whatever else you didn't eat to the proper address. Karen, defensive. What? Why on earth should I have to do that? My mom, because it doesn't belong to you. Karen, yes it does. My daughters love this stuff. I'm not giving it away. My mom, but it's not yours. If your daughter liked the stuff so much, then you can go ahead and buy them their own. But what you have now is a birthday gift for my niece who barely has anything. And you have no goddamn right to take it from her. Karen, shouting, I didn't take anything. It was on my porch. My mom, now also shouting because fuck this woman. It doesn't belong to you. You knew it didn't belong to you. Now for God's sake, just do the right thing and give it back. Karen, I would do no such thing. Just get your stupid niece another package if it matters so much. And quit bothering me and my family about it. If you call again, I will consider it harassment. Goodbye. And with that, she hung up. It took my dad something like 3 hours to calm my mom down from the absolute seething state that call left her in. I don't know whether or not what Karen did was actually illegal, like the kind of thing we could have sued her for or not. But my mom came to the conclusion that this bitch wasn't worth making Maggie wait any longer. And so she put together another, pretty much identical package and drove a couple of hours out there to deliver it herself. In the end, Maggie wasn't negatively impacted at all, and neither was Ella. Maggie was delighted to see her present, not seeming to care at all that it was her past birthday, and Ella apparently burst into tears and hugged my mom when she arrived, thanking her profusely for going out of her way to do this. We weren't that negatively impacted either. Sure, we were a bit tight on the budget for a while after that, but it was nothing really. And definitely worth it for the photo that Ella sent a few days later of an ecstatic looking Maggie with sparkly purple butterfly clips in her messy brown hair, hugging her new stuffed unicorn to her chest and smiling her gape-toothed smile at the camera like it was happiest day of her life. Ella and Maggie's situation has been steadily improving as of late, and while they're still struggling a bit, the last time I saw them, they both put on a decent amount of weight, great since they've been way too skinny beforehand. And Maggie is apparently doing pretty well for herself at school. I guess all wells that ends well. Entitled parent threatens to call Child Protection Service and sue daycare for having an autistic child. This is rather a long one, so bear with me. Obligatory I'm on mobile comment. Cross-post in r/entitled redditors. Cass, EM, entitled mom, ED, entitled dad, EB1 and EB2, entitled brat 1 and 2. SB, sweet boy, M, manager. So before some of my health issues, I worked in a few daycare centers as an early child care assistant. Working in childcare means you see a fair share of entitled parents, but this couple took the cake. It was the start of September, and our daycare had a few openings for new students. I had been at this daycare for maybe a month and had gotten quite close to the group of 12 or so children. And I was excited to meet any new students we would be getting in. It was midweek when we were told a new family would be starting with us and would be bringing in 2 children. Enter the entitled family. From the moment they came through the door, it was evident that they were going to be a bit of a pain, but you sometimes get difficult parents. Entitled mom walked in with a "Can I speak to your manager" haircut. Entitled dad was trying to arrange Entitled brat 1 and Entitled brat 2. Entitled brat 1 was a 5-year-old girl. She was well-spoken and independent, but something about her seemed off. Entitled brat 2 was 4 as well. Not to be mean, but he was fat. I'm not talking about a bit pudgy. I mean, this was the biggest and roundest child I have ever laid my eyes on. Now, I'm far from a spring chicken myself, and were his size not relevant to the story, I wouldn't even share it, because who am I to judge? From the first few minutes, watching the family settle in a few things became quite apparent. Entitled Brat 1 was mostly ignored by her family, and Entitled Brat 2 had everything done for him. The parents only stayed for an hour to let the kids settle in, then headed to work, and I thought things would be normal, but oh no. Entitled Brat 2 had apparently taken quite a liking to me, and was super clingy. It's nice to be liked, but we do try to encourage children to play with each other more than the teachers. With one exception, Sweet Boy. Now, Sweet Boy was the sweetest child I've ever met, had the pleasure of teaching. He was almost 4. Loved Robert Mush books and fire trucks, which was amazing since we were 4 buildings down from the fire station, and another girl's dad was a firefighter. Sweet Boy was also almost entirely nonverbal and had autism. This meant sometimes he had some difficulties with his interactions, but was overall very happy standing on the stool most of the day, watching the firehouse and playing with his trucks. Usually, I worked with Sweet Boy all day, since he had also taken a liking to me, and for many toddlers on the spectrum, having someone they are comfortable with really helps with their ability to follow instructions and join in group activities. Entitled Brat 2 did not like this one bit. He was constantly demanding the attention of not only me, but of other staff members too, and when he felt he didn't get it, he would cry. Now, I'm a very compassionate person, but also a no-nonsense teacher, and the crying grew more tiring with the more obvious it was how spoiled Entitled Brat 2 was. Not only did Entitled Brat 2 did not know how to put on his Velcro shoes, open his lunchbox, or put on his coat at 3 years old, a feat most 4-year-olds can manage with a bit of effort. He would demand help, and when told, "I want to see you try first on your own and then I will help you," he would have a fit, crying and throwing whatever he had. The second day they came to the daycare, Entitled Dad pulled me aside to inform me that Entitled Brat 1 had said a child had hit her. Of course, I was surprised, but it is a daycare and these things can happen. I apologized and told Entitled Dad we would keep an eye on her to make sure nothing happened again, though I did find it odd since she had spent most of the first day playing by herself, as she has stated she likes her own space. We kept an eye on her all day and nothing happened. We were relieved. However, Entitled Brat 2 had begun hitting many other children and trying to take their toys from them, only to throw more tantrum when told to wait his turn and not to hit. This was especially worrying because of his size, and most children in our care was quite small for their age. Again, the next day, Entitled Dad comes in, this time with Entitled Mom, claiming their daughter had been hit. I politely informed them that the daughter hadn't interacted with anyone except for one other newer girl, and that we had been keeping a very close eye on her all day and had not witnessed any such event. Entitled Mom grabbed Entitled Brat's one arm and said, "Show me who is the boy who hit you." Entitled Brat 1 points to Sweet Boy. I tell the parents Sweet Boy didn't even interact with Entitled Brat 1. I was with him all day. Entitled Mom glares at me and says, "The autistic boy should be in a special school for other autistic children." I'm getting annoyed but trying to remain polite. Sweet Boy does just fine in this class, and this is where his older brother came, so he is comfortable here. Entitled Dad then cuts in, "That autistic boy traumatized our daughter. I don't want my children going somewhere unsafe." I reiterate the fact that Entitled Brat 1 had not informed us of being hit by anyone, that we hadn't seen anything, and that it most certainly wasn't Sweet Boy who did it. Then I done goofed. I informed them that Entitled Brat 2 had actually hit several children. They both insist that he was just stressed about the new environment. They gave a half-assed, "remember, gentle hands" to Entitled Brat 2 and left. Over the next week and a half, there were new issues every day. Anything from Entitled Brat 1 not getting to play with the doll she wanted, to Entitled Brat 2 not being lifted up to use the slide. He couldn't climb the ladder and was far too heavy to lift without possible injury. No matter what though, every day came with an accusation the Sweet Boy had in some way been violent towards one or both of their children. I had been careful to tell my manager, who worked downstairs in other classroom, everything that had been happening, when it was happening, and my co-workers backed me up. My manager was a smaller but tougher older woman, with very little filter, who was not afraid of conflict. One morning, she decided to stay in the classroom, as the kids came in to see me firsthand what Entitled Mom and Entitled Dad were going to say. Entitled Dad says that Entitled Brat 1, who has begun a habit of taking toys from kids when she wants them, and lying constantly, said Sweet Boy hit her and threw a truck at her and pulled her hair. I once again say I had been with Sweet Boy all day and none of that had happened. However, once again, Entitled Brat 2 had been quite violent with other children. All week I've been telling them about his discretions. Entitled Dad then says that Entitled Brat 2 is only like that because he has seen Sweet Boy hurt Entitled Brat 1 and is picking up bad behavior because he's never like this. Entitled Mom instantly started on her rant about how she's going to call Child Protection Service to have this child removed from the daycare and put in an autistic school. Manager was quick to step in and tell her she had no right to do that, and that he isn't her child. Entitled mom and entitled dad kept going off about how the autistic boy was a danger to other children and the autistic boy needs special care. Manager was getting clearly frustrated and said, "You need to stop calling him the autistic boy. His name is Sweet Boy, and that is incredibly disrespectful." Entitled mom said, "Well, he is autistic, so I can call him what I want." The manager said something that I didn't expect. "So will you be fine if everyone called Entitled Brat 2 the fat boy instead of his name?" Entitled mom and entitled dad saw red. They grabbed their children and stormed out cussing about calling the police. A few days later, manager came up to me and told me they have left the daycare but wanted all their money back for the month and wanted to sue us for additional trauma their children had experienced due to their time at the daycare. Manager had to go with them and the official at the Child Care Licensing Board to prove that she didn't owe them anything. Luckily, I documented everything in the data communication book the staff shared, and myself and the other staff signed written statements basically saying their children were lying, violent, spoiled brats. Manager also brought the contract with her they had to sign and pay for stating that they will be with us for a 3-month trial, and included a clause that stated the center required a month's notice to leave. Entitled mom and entitled dad ended up having to pay for the 2 months left in the contract plus an additional month for no canceling with notice. I only stayed at the daycare another month, as I caught a very serious illness from a child and was off work for 3 months recovering. But the last I saw, Sweet Boy was doing wonderfully and starting to help read along with some of his favorite books. Burger King Lady. Before you read this, just know it's not the most action-packed story in the world. This happened quite a long time ago when I was younger and my mom took me to Burger King or a fast food place early in the morning. There was one other car there and they pulled into the parking lot to go inside, but what they didn't realize was that the inside of the place was closed and the drive-thru was only open. So we drove into the drive-thru until my mom noticed a lady walking towards the car. So my mom rolled down the window and the lady said, "I think because we were before you and we didn't know the inside was closed, we should go in the front of you." My mom, being the kind lady that she is, she backed out of the drive-thru, waited for the lady to get back to her car, and let her go in the front. This whole ordeal took about 5 minutes, and there was no line for the drive-thru, so it would have been faster if she had shut up and gone behind us. I hope it was kind of interesting for you guys to read, and my mom was so pissed at this lady. I had never seen my mom so mad at anything. I hope she got a foot fungus in her Burger King foot lettuce. Anyways, that would be all for me for today. As always, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. I'll be back tomorrow with more Reddit stories. Have a nice rest of the day, guys.